Brian Stephen Smith isn't your run-of-the-mill Alaskan outdoorsman. He looks like he might spend his days fishing for salmon or photographing eagles, but no. The content on Brian's camera is a lot less picturesque. In 2024, a jury got to watch his last film, Homicide at the Midtown Marriott.
Sadly, in my movies, everyone dies. I get the Oscar.
There is no telling how much more pain he would have caused if it wasn't for one woman who decided to rob him. Let's recap. It's September 2019, and Valerie Kassler hops into a black truck for a date. Nothing romantic about it. She's living in a tent, relying on sex work to get by, and this is just another client. The only thing different about this guy is his accent. She can't place it. It sounds sort of British? So they drive around Anchorage while she sips from her Gatorade bottle of vodka. Finally, he pulls over to an ATM to get some cash for their date, but Valerie needs the money, but there's something about this guy she doesn't like. Then she spots his phone. He left it in the truck. She could probably pawn it, make the same kind of cash, if not more, so she grabs it, jumps out, and runs. What she finds on that phone sobers her up like that.
In the hotel room, it showed her laying on the ground on the rug, and she was like all beat up. I mean, her face was not even recognizable. And he was hitting her and telling her that she isn't going to leave the hotel alive, that he's killing her.
Brian Smith's home videos are the stuff of nightmares. See, this 48-year-old South African native enjoys killing women. Sometimes he makes it quick, other times it's slow and painful. He records every minute of it for his so-called followers. You can't see Brian's face in these videos, but you can hear his voice, his very noticeable South African accent. And his voice, oh my God, you guys. He says the most horrible things.
Okay, we did the nipple shot. You live. You die. You live. You die.
At one point, Brian also says, "What will my followers think of me? People need to know when they are being serial killed." He says stuff like, "People don't know how to die these days." The woman fighting for her life is 30-year-old Kathleen Henry. Brian turned her last moments into 39 pictures and 12 videos. The first images are timestamped 12:59 a.m. September 4th, 2019, just about a week or two before Valerie clicked play. One shows Kathleen trying to scratch his right wrist because it's around her throat, but it's useless. He's got a tight grip. Every breath must hurt. The things he does to her body after are just as horrifying. O'Brien props Kathleen up. He poses her in different ways. He plays with her. When he gets bored of that, he covers her with a sheet and hauls her out of the hotel on a luggage dolly. The last image is of Kathleen's body face down in the bed of Brian's truck. It's dated September 6, 1:12 a.m. He drove around with Kathleen's body in his truck bed for 2 days. Kathleen Henry grew up in a tiny Alaskan village on the west side of the state. Life wasn't easy from the very start. Her village didn't even have the luxury of running water. She dropped out of school at 14 and wound up behind bars, but Kathleen made the best of it. She took classes and got her GED in 2012. Sadly, she struggled with addiction and she had frequent run-ins with the law over the next handful of years. She walked out of jail for the last time in June of 2019. Just a few months later, she agreed to a date with Brian Smith. We don't know a lot about his early years. He grew up in Queenstown, South Africa. His father died when he was young, and Brian did a short stint in the military. He worked off and on in the hospitality industry, and he met his future American wife, Stephanie, online gaming in 2013 or, thereabouts. She worked in admin for the U.S. Immigration Department in Anchorage. They married, and he moved to Alaska to live with her in 2014. It's hard to say exactly what he did to bring in money. Some reports say he worked in maintenance for Marriott, same hotel where he later filmed his victims' last moments. His wife says he also fixed up old camera gear and resold it online. Imagine not knowing the person you're married to is a serial killer. I mean, I know, of course it happens, but it's horrifying. As far as Stephanie knew, her new husband was a good guy, but he had a dark side that she didn't know anything about. Now, it's hard to say if Brian Smith came to America with murder on his mind. Was he already a seasoned killer in South Africa? Was he hoping to shoot his next Gruesome gruesome masterpiece against the backdrop of Alaska's glaciers? Now, here's one fact we know for sure. Anchorage is one of the top 3 cities for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Only a fraction of those cases are ever solved. So you know what that means for a guy like Brian? Native women are like fish in a frozen barrel. Until Valerie Kassler came along, that is. Except now Valerie has a problem. A few. See, she stole this phone while attempting to exchange sex for money, and she's got priors, so she's freaked out about going to the cops. But the thing is, she knows Kathleen. She wants to bring her body home for her family. A lot of people in her position would stay out of it, count themselves lucky to have gotten out of the date alive at all, because you know, Brian had something grotesque in mind, but not Valerie. Instead, she comes up with an idea. She steals an SD card and she transfers the images and videos from the phone to that. And then she labels it Homicide at Midtown Marriott. She found it like that, she says, just lying there on the street. But, you know, someone with a badge should definitely take a look at it right away. They found Kathleen on the side of the highway, just dumped like trash in some trees between the road and the train tracks. But this isn't going to be another unsolved murder. The Anchorage doesn't get too many visitors from South Africa, especially not during the off-season when these gruesome videos were made. And hearing Brian's thick accent on the videos tipped police off. See, they already have an idea who they're looking for. At one point, about a year before this, another woman came to them with a wild story about a South African guy bragging about a woman he'd killed. She allegedly pointed them Brian's way, but she died before the investigation really went anywhere. The stolen SD card put Brian back on the cops' radar. You caught, son. Police grabbed Brian on October 8th, 2019 at the Anchorage airport. What with the images and the videos and the distinctive accent and all, well, there's not a lot he can say.
You clearly didn't know you were going to have your license plate in the photos, right?
Yeah, that's... I would not do... If I had to do something like this, I would not do that.
That's right. You wouldn't plan that this way.
Yeah.
All right. So clearly it wasn't planned.
Yeah.
That wasn't thought out very well. It was something that happened.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something that was planned. There was absolutely... You can tell there's no planning on this.
Yeah. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. This is someone who's an amateur, doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
Well, this is you.
And I'm cleverer than that.
After about 8 hours of hemming and hawing and I don't knowing, Brian confesses to killing Kathleen Henry. But what happens next takes the investigation to a whole other level. As detectives take him to the bathroom, Brian turns to them and says, "I'm going to make you famous. You guys got some more time? Let's keep talking." There's another victim. 53-year-old mama for Veronica Abachek. Brian took her home with him while his wife was out of town sometime in August of 2018. He complained she smelled bad and he ordered her into the shower. But the way Brian tells it, she pushed back, so he shot her in the head. And then he did unspeakable things to her body. That part he left out. But they know all about it because a search warrant at his house turned up more horrific videos. Veronica was a lot like Kathleen. She grew up in much the same way in a similar village, and she dealt with the same struggles with addiction. When she crossed paths with Brian, she was living rough on the streets, doing what she had to do to get by. The last time Veronica's family saw her was in July of 2018. She was reported missing in February 2019. But here's the thing. The police had already found Veronica's body before Brian confessed. Alaska state troopers found a woman carrying Veronica's ID. They closed the case and notified her family. But Brian said, no, you're wrong. He told them where he'd left the real Veronica, and sure enough, some mushroom pickers had stumbled across a skull with a bullet hole in that area months earlier. Dental records confirmed it. It was Veronica Abachek. Brian's trial kicked off in early 2024. He pleaded not guilty to 14 charges, including first-degree murder, sexual assault, and torture, which is pretty wild considering what was on that SD card. Naturally, his lawyers tried to get it thrown out. Valerie tampered with it, they claim. She probably did one of those deep fake AI edits we all hear so much about. Maybe. Except, Valerie was living in a tent behind a church at the time. She didn't exactly have the editing gear or the know-how to frame a man. In the end, the jury didn't care how she got the SD card. After seeing what was on it, they couldn't wait to put Brian away for life. It took just over an hour to find him guilty on all charges. There's a chance Kathleen and Veronica aren't Brian's first victims. Now, remember what he said, "What are my followers going to think of me" in one of those videos? Well, there's some pretty sick stuff on the dark web, and reports say some unidentified female DNA was found in his truck bed. not his wife's, not his 2 known victims. They're not sure who that DNA belongs to. So are there more of Brian's home movies floating around out there, waiting for someone as dark and twisted as him to click play? But thankfully, this sick filmmaker made his final movie.